The Seattle Kraken have been sensed. Welcome back, everybody, to Game Over Ottawa. Maude with you for your recap and reaction to tonight's game. A 2-0 win for the Ottawa Senators. Finally, it feels like it's been a long time since I've been able to get on here and just be super positive. I guess since Sweden. It's only been 4 games since the Sweden trip, but it's been, 2 weeks at this point? Just only 4 games in 2 weeks. It's so ridiculous. But it's about to get super busy here down the December into Christmas stretch for the Senators. So you're going to be seeing a lot more Game Over Ottawa streams very soon. And hopefully some more Ottawa wins, because it's been really tough going lately. I'm going to run through sort of a general recap of the game with the notes that I have here, but leave any comments and questions that you have in the chat at any point, regardless of if it has anything to do with what I'm currently talking about, because I will be checking in again with the chat later on to respond to some of your messages. And I think it should be a pretty positive vibe here for once. I was the whole week with that Panthers game to kick it off, which was just, that felt like rock bottom. And then somehow it got worse against Columbus. Basically this whole week I was totally expecting to come on here and just be ranting and yelling again like I was after the game against the Islanders, because in retrospect that game was actually not too bad, because it was followed up by 2 much worse games. But we actually have a pretty solid, I would say almost 60-minute effort from the Sens here today to discuss. I think definitely a really good 40 minutes through the first 2 periods, and it got a little bit sketchy defending the lead in the 3rd period there. I think the Corsi ended up being like 80% to 20% in Seattle's favor in the end there. It was really that last 10 minutes where they pulled away in the shot clock. So maybe we'll say a solid 50-minute effort for the Sens. But if you factor in like the play of your goalie and everything like that, then maybe you could call it a full 60-minute effort, because we didn't get scored on at all, which is shocking, to be honest. Like, first shutout of the year for this team, and especially the fact that it came from Anders Forsberg, thinking of Anders Nilsson. The fact that it came from Anton Forsberg instead of Jonas Korpisalo was a little surprising to me, because obviously Forsy has had it rough this season. He's been near the bottom of the league in terms of goalie stats, whereas Korpisalo, despite not having the best stats himself, he has actually had some games where he just played out of his mind, and he would get the win, still allowing 3 goals, but it was like totally not his fault, or he will just lose despite playing very well. So awesome to see from Forsberg, because we really need to get both goalies in form here with the really busy schedule coming up. I have to think that Forsberg's starts being really spread out doesn't help him very much. So maybe getting into a consistent rhythm is something that we can look forward to in terms of some improved goaltending stats. Like, I think it's tough when you're just not facing a lot of shots. You're not in the net very much. Obviously, when you are in the net for the Sens, you do face a lot of shots most of the time. But you want to be feeling the rubber out there and getting into a rhythm if you're a goalie. So huge step forward for Forsberg here today. Seattle isn't like the best team in terms of goal scoring this year, but they have 4 lines that can score. You know, they're not like the Sens where the 4th line is just like barely a threat to score, and not much from the 3rd line either. They actually have their lines pretty well balanced. So I do think it was a decent challenge for Forsberg here today in terms of the opposition that he was facing. I guess I'll jump into my first period notes. I found it remarkable how quiet the crowd was in the first 3 to 4 minutes of the game, like after the puck drop, which is not too surprising, because it seemed like the vibes going into this game were at just a pure all-time low for this team and this fan base. So, you could hear a pin drop in that building. Thank God they had something to cheer about today with a couple of goals and not a single goal against. So, it turned out pretty good in the end. I hope that everyone had a great time at the game, especially considering there was probably a decent amount of people who have been to multiple Sens games this year that haven't even seen a win on home ice. and there was probably a decent amount of people like that at this game today. So they get one. I think it was only one win in the last 8 games at the CTC, which luckily I was at that game. I got I got that one win, pretty lucky, but great to finally get another win on home ice. We really need to fix up that home ice play. I would say for the rest of the year, who knows if we'll be able to turn it around and like get close to the playoffs. Even if we don't, I just hope that at least we can win more on home ice, because even if we're not totally threatening for a playoff spot, I just want the fans to be happy, because this fan base has suffered through so much, and it's still we still might not be out of the woods yet. It's a fun win here tonight that I'll break down soon, but it's just a lot of controversy and stuff regarding how the fans feel. So very glad that they got the big win on home ice here tonight, and hopefully they can build off of that next week. I think it's the Rangers and the Leafs. I think those are both home games. So we've got a little bit of a homestand here coming up. And then Saturday, I think, is against Carolina. I don't know. That must be a home game, because then I think after that, we go on that big Western road trip. So we obviously haven't been good with home ice advantage so far this year, but it would be great to just get a few on home ice and, even it out a little bit, because I would be shocked if this team, like, somehow plays better on the road than at home. They really don't seem like the type of team that can do that. So it's gonna be tough with those next 3 opponents on home ice being very good teams, but at least we got the win that we needed against Seattle, especially because the loss against Columbus was super disappointing, in terms of like, those are the teams that you need to beat, those teams that are near you in the standings, just because we've played so few games. But these teams, like Columbus and Seattle, have played like 6 or 7 more games than us, and then they're not even really ahead of us in the standings. So those are the type of teams that you'd like to think you're better than, which is why it was so disappointing to lose to Columbus. But I guess if you look at it in a back-to-back set, just that, and not thinking about the rest of the schedule so far this year, 1 out of 2 ain't bad, I guess. But I don't know. We have a pretty low bar to clear here in terms of positivity. So I'm digging for the positives, but there was positives within the Sens play today. So In the first period, I thought that the penalty kill was pretty good to start things off. I think Seattle got a very early power play. It was good until all 4 penalty killers went into the corner to dig for the puck. And of course, Seattle manages to win that battle, even though we had all of our guys in the corner. I think it was Bjorkstrand was just wide open in the slot after that. Great save from Forsberg, because that was just the type of defensive error that we see commonly from this team. Seeing that so early in the game was worrying to me, but thankfully for most of the rest of the game, we cleaned up those type of like wide open in the slot chances. We weren't really giving up too many of those for the rest of the game. So little bit of a wishy-washy start. Batherson hit the crossbar shortly after that. I do have to give credit to him. I wrote in my notes, I was like, Batherson is the king of hitting posts. Feels like he's hitting a post like every second game or so, and it starts to get really frustrating. But we do have to give credit to him tonight, of course, with the goal. And even on the play where he hit a crossbar here, he really generated something out of nothing with a nice little toe drag move, and it would have been a beautiful goal if it went in. So even though that wasn't a goal, I marked that down as a positive. Digging for the positives here today. Then, yeah, after that, the 4th line got hemmed in for like 2 whole minutes nearly. After, you know what, there was a couple times that we were hemmed in for like almost 2 minutes. I think this was the one I'm thinking of, but Zach MacEwen had 2 separate chances to clear the puck, and not even make like a breakout pass, but just like chip it off the boards and out, He had two opportunities to do it. He couldn't do it, and it was an ugly shift watching our 4th line run around. I have to say, you know what, for some reason, I'm struggling to find him in the box score here. Yeah, I have to say, Zach MacEwen with 3 minutes and 23 seconds of time on ice. What are we doing here with this guy at this point? Like, he will fight, but he's not a heavyweight fighter. Why are we dressing him especially with 11-7 today. Why are we dressing this guy? I thought that he would be the one scratched. Instead, it ended up being Highmore. But holy crap, MacEwen just adds nothing to this team. Not an imposing physical presence, even though he would like to be. We haven't really seen that ever working to our benefit, only to our detriment, like whatever the hell happened in that Florida game. I think I because I wasn't doing the show, I stopped paying attention and like flipped off of the Florida game before he even got kicked out. So I don't even know what he did. I think he tried to elbow Matthew Tkachuk or something like that. But anyway, the point is, I don't know what the hell we're doing with Zach MacEwen. I don't know why he's still in the lineup. I would love to have him go back to Belleville very quickly and just give someone else a chance. Like, I would rather see Sokolov. He's a similar big body who at least has a little bit of skill with the puck. He's not very fast, but I don't think MacEwen is either. Could be wrong about that, but I don't really watch MacEwen and think that he's particularly a good skater. So, and Crookshank as well has been doing great in Belleville, so that's another guy that I would like to see given an opportunity. Of course, with DJ Smith, who knows if those guys would get any more than the 3 minutes of ice time that MacEwen got if they were in the lineup instead of him. But I would rather see other players than MacEwen at that point, and I feel like a lot of the fan base would agree with that. I don't know what we were doing, what Dorion was doing, signing that guy to 3 years. At least it's only league minimum, so it's not a huge issue. If you can just bury that in the minors, right? I think I could be wrong. Maybe someone in chat can correct me, but I think on a league minimum contract, even if it's like a one-way deal, which he might even be on a two-way deal, I think it just doesn't count against the cap at all if you bury it. Could be wrong. Maybe there's like a slight cap hit penalty if we do bury him, but at least at league minimum, it would be barely anything at all. So I don't know about the future of Zach MacEwen on this team. He does have a future with the 3-year contract, but only 2 months into that contract, it is very, very sketchy in terms of this guy actually adding any value to our team. Very frustrating for me to watch him play, but at least I don't have to watch him play very much because he only gets 3 to 5 minutes of ice time a night. Like, it's not even just that DJ doesn't play the fourth line, because the fourth line had a decent amount of minutes against Columbus yesterday. If I remember correctly, people were complaining about them seeing ice time in the third period when we were trying to come back. And even today, like, Kelly got 4 more minutes than MacEwen did. Rourke Chartier played 18 minutes and 48 seconds, which is crazy. I feel like that should never happen. I guess, like, technically he wasn't on the fourth line tonight, he was the third line, so obviously he would have more ice time than Kelly and MacEwen, but I feel like Chartier's ice time should never be that high. Like, that's a little bit sketchy for us to be running that guy out there so much. He's a generally safe player, so it didn't hurt us at all tonight. Like, he's responsible defensively, but I don't like that. I'll put it that way. In terms of playing 11-7D as well, I gotta check. Yeah, so Travis Hamonic was only 5 minutes and 17 seconds of time on ice today. Bernard Docker getting more ice time than Hamonic, which was pretty interesting. 2 minutes more. I think, like, I don't mind the decision to go to 11-7. DJ is pretty much just never going to healthy scratch Travis Hamonic, I think. Although I think the fact that he only played 5 minutes in tonight's game shows a little bit that he feels like maybe just because it's a back-to-back scenario, feels like Hamonic could use a bit of a rest or something. Shows that he's not one of the best D, obviously. Like, he knows. DJ knows. We're not at the point where he's playing 20 minutes anymore when Chabot and Branstrom were injured. And who else was injured? Someone else was injured too. It was 3 guys. Yeah, when Zub was injured as well. When Hamonic was just playing 20 minutes a night, at least this is an improvement. So the fact that he was still in the lineup tonight, I'm okay with it. I would have preferred MacEwen to be the scratch on the forwards, although since it was Highmore, like, that's kind of a negligible difference. Like, Highmore doesn't really provide much either. I think he's a little bit of a faster player, provides a little more energy on the forecheck and stuff. So maybe I would have preferred to see him play tonight. But all in all, I think in terms of the lineup decisions with that 11-7. I wouldn't mind to see it, like, even the next game, I wouldn't mind if they stick with 11-7 because it allowed us to double shift guys like Joseph, who was probably the Sens' best player tonight. He opened the scoring, which is the next point that I need to get to. I've gone totally off of my notes here, but Matthew Joseph was probably our best player tonight. The 11-7 allowed him to see a lot more ice time, along with certain other players. I think Stutzle was getting double shifted as well. He was great tonight too with that with those extra shifts. I was very happy with Stutzle's game today. Drew some penalties, not a lot of turnovers, which he struggled with this year. I think he might have had one or two, but I think he was managing the puck better overall. He easily could have had a goal or two as well. Decord had some good saves on him. That one chance in the third period that deflected off the defender's stick on the rush, I can't believe that didn't go in. That was just ridiculous. Stutzle had just been pretty snake bit this year overall, I think. Like, the fact that he couldn't even get that to go in, he couldn't even get that lucky chance. That just sucks to see. But regardless, Stutzle was great tonight, setting up Batherson for that goal too. So all in all, I guess the point here was Matthew Joseph with the first period goal. A little bit of a fluky one, but we take those. The coaching staff and players always talking about, oh, we're not getting the bounces. Oh, we played fine, but the bounces went the other team's way. Finally, the bounces went our way for once, with that goal especially. And in terms of Seattle never managing to get a lucky bounce that went into the Sens net. So bounces, baby. We're getting the bounces. Apparently, that's all you need to win is the bounces. That is the biggest thing, according to this coaching staff. From there, second period, Kubalik, I had noted that he also failed 2 breakout passes in a row, similar to MacEwen did in the first period, and that frustrated me as well. I think getting the puck out of our zone is the biggest issue with this team, other than what we actually do when we're defending in the zone. Just the multiple chances to get the puck out and constantly failing is what frustrates me even more than the actual D-zone coverage. So not great from Kubalik. I thought he was pretty average tonight. He's a guy that I don't think has much of a future with the team at this point. I think it'll be interesting to see how much longer he sticks around. It's just, I don't think his all-around game is really worth it to have him in your bottom 6. I don't think his defensive game is good enough. And only 1 assist on the year is pretty underwhelming, pretty bad. Like, he had 25 assists last year, so obviously he does have a little bit of playmaking ability. I mean, maybe those assists were just coming off of his one-timers and people were scoring on the rebounds on the power play, but he definitely has more talent than he's shown for us here. I'm not really liking him in the bottom 6, but at the same time, it's not like he's earning a promotion to the top 6 or anything like that. Like, you wouldn't move him up over Joseph. Obviously not Tkachuk or Giroux or Batherson on those wings, or even Tarasenko. Tarasenko has been considerably better than Kubalik has been, despite the goal drought. So Kubalik, not too happy with him at this point. And I wonder how much longer he's going to stick around. Stutzle, yeah, I made a note about his penalty that he drew on Justin Schultz. I thought that was very funny because it wasn't quite a dive. It was just a it was just like a sneaky play. I'm pretty sure he just intentionally ran into Schultz on purpose. He easily could have avoided him, but he just like made it look like Schultz was getting in his way, which I thought was very funny. A little bit of clever cheekiness from Timmy. It's not quite a dive. It's maybe a little bit along those same lines, being a little sneaky to draw a penalty, but sometimes you have to do that, and it worked out in his favor there. And I have to point out as well, because I didn't realize this, Locked On Sens was saying that Stutzle has actually drawn the 4th most penalties in the NHL this season, and a plus 12 penalty differential for him in terms of how many he's drawn and how many he's taken. That's first in the NHL. So for all of Stutzle being called a diver, and in terms of early in the season, it felt like the refs were trying to not call things when he was going down. It seems like he is still doing enough, or at least legitimately getting fouled enough, that the refs are calling infractions on him. I think part of it is sometimes him doing these sneaky little things or embellishments, but other times a lot of it is just that he's so fast and but also kind of light on his feet. He doesn't have like the strongest like low center of gravity or anything. He falls down a lot even when like no one touches him. So I think a lot of it is just players struggling to keep up with him because he's such a fast and talented player, and then also he just has a propensity to lose his balance. But in this case, it was just a funny play that I have to give him credit for just running into Schultz and making it look like it was an interference penalty. Huge props to Timmy on that one. It was very funny and it was effective. It worked out. So another thing in the second period that I liked was there was a few actual like very good scoring chances at 5v5 for Chabot and Stutzle around like the midway point of the period, because like in the last two games, we had no 5-on-5 scoring chances. It felt like most of our best chances against Columbus were on the power play, other than like the goal by Giroux. And against Florida, 5-on-5 absolutely generating nothing. So the fact that we were actually getting a few decent chances off the rush, I really liked to see that, because it's been pretty dire for that lately. And that's probably a good time for me to check the natural stat trick, as we always do here on this show, because I'm curious. It seems, yeah, it was pretty even in terms of high danger chances at 5-on-5 for most of the game. We finished with an advantage of 12-8 for once. I feel like we usually don't have the advantage, so that's awesome. And obviously in that third period with Seattle taking so many shots and running away with the Corsi battle, we were only credited with having one high danger chance against in that third period, which is awesome. And I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself here in talking about the third period, but in terms of those high danger chances at 5-on-5, I will give the Sens credit for the 5-on-5 play here today, because the last couple games DJ was saying like, oh, we were fine, we were okay 5-on-5, it's just that Florida scored a bunch of power play goals. No, that was bullshit. When we were playing 5-on-5 in that game against Florida, we were generating nothing, and we were mostly getting caved in, mostly just running around and not getting any offensive pressure. And against Columbus, yeah, we did win the shots battle, we did win the Corsi battle or whatever, but it clearly wasn't good enough to win 5-on-5, because you just still gave up a bunch of goals. But today, I will actually give them full credit for the 5-on-5 performance. That was probably the best and closest to a 60-minute effort in terms of the 5-on-5 play that we've had all season. Like, I think maybe the game against Minnesota in Sweden was pretty good as well in terms of limiting chances against, but we had like no offense in this game, whereas at least in today's game, it was a lot more chances actually being generated, a lot more puck movement, chances off the rush, a few shifts actually where we were working it around in the offensive zone, which was nice, because lately we just haven't been seeing a lot of that. And even the game against the Islanders too, if we want to go back a little further, especially I'm just mostly remembering that third period where we couldn't generate anything and we're just getting totally shut down against the four defensemen of the Islanders. It was refreshing here today to actually be able to generate some stuff at 5-on-5. Regardless of only scoring 2 goals, which is a little bit low for our standards, because we know this team has a lot of skill, can score a lot of goals, but 2 was enough today, luckily. We did give up a 4-on-1 in the second period, which scared the crap out of me, but it was mostly happened because Chabot got injured on that play. He went down in the offensive zone, which was also a huge scare, too. Thank God he's okay. But just the lack of defensive awareness from the forwards to get back on that play after Chabot was down and injured, like, that's the type of thing that this team needs to clean up, because we are lucky that Seattle didn't convert on that chance. It kind of started as like a clear 2-on-1, and then the 2 other Seattle players caught up and it looked like a 4-on-1, but I feel like they didn't really know what play they wanted to run, because they weren't sure if it's just going to be a 2-on-1 or if they should involve the other guys who are coming in as well. But yeah, the back checking from the forwards was not there on that one. That was something that I'd like to see better from, because that's a whole other thing about this team's defending, is the defense from the forwards is often not great. So a little bit of an area that can be improved there. We scored quickly after that, though. Tarasenko, great forecheck. A little bit of a fluky play again where Decord went out to stop the puck. Uh, it was weird. I don't think it went into the zone where he couldn't play it, but he was just, I guess he was expecting his defenseman to come and pick it up faster instead of, maybe he stopped playing it because it was like right on the line of the zone where he couldn't play it. But regardless, a miscommunication between the goalie and the defense, and we capitalized. Stutzle had an amazing pass there to get it to Batherson for the wide open net. I think if Stutzle tried to shoot it, it was possible that Decord could have got in the way, diving back across, but Stutzle directed it to more of an angle for Batherson that would be a lot harder for Decord to make the save on. So I think it was a smart play from Stutzle there. Very happy with that goal, and nice for Batherson to score too, because talked about him hitting the crossbar earlier. He has been hot lately, so it was nice to see him get rewarded for the decent play. Batherson, I think, is a player that I go back and forth on a lot. I'm often not happy with his play, but pretty good here tonight. I did have to say though, I felt like I didn't see him on the ice much in the third period. When I looked at his ice time, he did have 16 and a half minutes. So I don't think he got benched or anything, because that's still a pretty good total of ice time, but I don't think I really saw him in the last entire 10 minutes of the third period. I could be wrong about that. If anyone else noticed him not being on the ice for a while, do let me know if I'm just going crazy and I didn't realize that he was out there. But I really, I don't know what his ice time was after the second period. So it could be that his ice time was very high in the first two periods and then he only played a couple minutes in the third. That's possible as well. So if anyone does know, I would be interested to find out how much he played in the third period, because I didn't notice him at all in the third period, even though in the first two periods he was very impactful. It could just be a situation of the coaching staff not trusting his defensive game, which they are correct to do, to not trust his defensive game. So it might just be that, or I might just be tripping and he was totally out there and I didn't notice him. That's entirely possible as well. Another note on that goal is Timmy hitting 200 points. Third fastest in franchise history to do it. Faster than Alfie, which is awesome. And I believe he's also, so it was that those stats are fastest in terms of games played. He was the fastest ever in terms of age. He's the youngest player to hit 200 points. I guess Spezza and Yashin were probably just a little bit older than him when they did it, which is interesting because I think they also came into the league around the age of 18 or 19. Maybe they both started at 19 and Timmy started at 18, given a little bit of a head start in terms of the age. That's another thing that if anyone in chat knows, let me know, because I found that curious. But I think it's just Timmy must have started when he was 18 and the other guys probably 19, because I can't remember if Spezza played for the Sens straight out of junior. I feel like, or straight after being drafted. I don't think he did. I think, didn't he spend some time in the AHL even? It could have been. So maybe that's why. Something like that. Anyway, awesome from Timmy. Hitting 200 points quicker than Alfie did is freaking amazing. Obviously, Alfie had some amazing years later in his career when he was in his 30s. Those were his best seasons at that point. He aged like a fine wine, and Timmy is just amazing right away. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more record-breaking moments for Stutzle where it's oh, he's the youngest player on the Sens to do this or to do that. There's going to be a lot more coming up. So love Timmy Stutzle. Very happy with his play overall tonight as well. And then for the third period, not a lot to talk about, but I found it very funny that the Kraken are apparently 0-8-1 when trailing after two periods, which is now 0-9-1. And that kind of made me happy because I get incredibly angry about how bad the Sens are when trailing after two periods. I think they're at 1-9-0 after they got another loss yesterday when trailing after two periods. Or you know what, it might even be even worse than that, because I don't know if the stat includes the Florida game, because of course we were trailing in that game. But it was kind of... what's the word? It was kind of comforting to see another team that sucks as bad at making comebacks as we do. And, not for lack of trying for Seattle here today. They did a pretty decent job of putting the pressure on. I think the Sens sat back a little bit too much in the third period, but at least Seattle, with that bad record on comebacks, they they fired the puck on net a lot. They were trying to get deflections and rebounds. Forsberg was doing a good job of not allowing those types of shots to go through and not allowing too many second chances off of rebounds for Seattle. It was a lot of one and done shots just from the outside. I bet that the heat map here is pretty good. There wasn't a lot of slot shots. I wish I could filter it by like just the third period. I'm looking at it for all of the 5v5 ice time, but there's no red on the heat map whatsoever for the Kraken at 5v5. And even if you set it to all, no red at all. So it's just light green and light blue, not even any yellow. So I'm not an expert on how to read these stats, but that seems pretty good to me. For all of the even strength ice time, there was not a lot of high danger chances for Seattle. So especially in that third period, it was just the Sens were doing a great job of keeping the puck to the outside. I was very, very impressed with our ability to hold the lead despite the pressure from the opposition. And Forsberg as well had a huge save on Yanni Gourde early in the period. I think that was his best save of the night in terms of that was the closest to being a very good scoring chance for Seattle. That one was kind of tight in and around the net. Maybe Gourde didn't exactly get the best shot off, but it was a great save by Forsberg regardless. I think it was it 2 penalty kills in the third period? Maybe it was only 1, but they did a pretty good job regardless. Zub saved a goal at the end as well. So pretty good team effort to get Forsberg the shutout too. We also blocked a lot of shots, which I forgot to mention until now. 23 blocked shots to Seattle's 8. Obviously, they were firing the puck so much in the third period that we had to block a lot of shots. I wish I could see how many of those block shots were in the third period alone, because there's probably a lot of them. But very good commitment to defense today from the Sens. I think Chabot, Sanderson, and Chychrun all got kind of banged up from blocking a shot. They all had a moment where they blocked one and then they're kind of wincing going back to the bench and stuff. So it was scary, but they did what they needed to do to help their goalie get the shutout. I think it was a very good team effort in terms of the overall 5-on-5 play and defense. Like, I guess it's kind of a soft opponent in Seattle. You know, they're right down there in the standings with you. They're ahead of us because of loser points, but they've played 6 more games, right? So kind of a soft opponent, but considering we couldn't even beat the soft opponent in the Blue Jackets yesterday, I'll take it. I feel like there's not too much to complain about today. Yeah, like pretty happy overall. I'll see if anything was going on in the chat. Yeah. Awesome O saying the Florida game was very annoying to watch. I turned it off too. If I was covering that game, I would have just came on here like absolutely screaming. Like I would have to turn down the volume on my mic, which normally I feel like I'm a little too quiet. I feel like I don't have that much of a loud voice, but if I was covering that game, I would have been yelling because I was really pissed with how that game played out. It was pain to watch. So I feel like a lot of people turned off that game. And like in terms of turning off the games and tuning out, that's why like we really need the team to pick it up here, because heading into this game, I was seeing a lot of dejected fans on social media. Like, we were seeing it even before the Columbus game, but it was even worse after how that game went. Just a lot of people saying, oh, I'm not even going to watch the games now. I'm just going to follow on social media, watch the highlights if it's a decent game, you know. And people with tickets to upcoming games being like, oh, I have tickets and I barely even want to go anymore, or I'm like dreading going. Like, I'm going to the next game against the Rangers, and thank God we won today, so I can at least have like a glimmer of hope that maybe we won't play like complete crap, but it's going to be really tough against the Rangers. At least I'm a little bit more optimistic heading into that, but if we had lost this game too, with the vibes already being at an all-time low going into this game, it would have been even worse with another loss, and I would have just been absolutely dreading going to the arena for the next game. So it's tough. You really don't want the fans to tune out, especially this early into the season, and with how high the optimism was at the beginning of the season. It was like almost like an all-time high ever since like maybe 2007 in terms of finally we have new ownership, they're going to turn things around, and the team on the ice should be trending up. it hasn't been trending up. So I feel like a lot of fans are kind of at their breaking point where it's just we don't want to we don't want to just watch this frustrating hockey anymore. They got to it's like they gotta pick it up. And today I felt like they did. I felt like everyone who went to this game got their money's worth. Great to have another win at the CTC because there haven't been very many this year. Hopefully we can pick it up in terms of playing in front of the home ice fans, especially with how you had quotes from Tkachuk and Giroux not liking the booing and the fired the coach chants. The fire the coach chants, I understand that why they would speak out against that, but in terms of the booing, it's like, holy crap, guys, you deserved the booing. So hopefully they can pick it up and we won't have to boo them anymore, because none of us want to be booing. The fact that we are booing, at least in the past, shows that we're at least still engaged, and we know that you can do better. We know that the team can do better. If people aren't booing and we're sucking, and then there's less people in the stadium, that shows that people just don't even care anymore, which is worse than people booing. You still want to have everyone invested and believing in the team to be able to do better. I feel like that's what booing is most of the time, is that you believe that the team can be doing better than they currently are. So even though the players took it in a bad way, it still shows that the fans are engaged, and we don't want to see more fans tuning out. Like I think it was, I can't remember which game it was after. It was after either the Islanders game. I think it was the Islanders game. My sister texted our family group chat, and she's just like, yeah, I didn't even turn the game on. I just expect us to lose all the time now. Like, and she's someone who I would always watch the games with when she still lived here in town. So people are tuning out, so we got to turn it around, is what I'll say to kind of put a cap on that conversation. Full Sweat Tryhard saying, to be fair, I wish the fans were as vocal with support as the negative boos. Our fans are pretty quiet. That is a very good point too. I feel like when I'm in the arena, it's never like, as a fan base, I feel like we're not very good at getting chants going and sustaining them. We're not super loud unless the game is like really crazy and there's a lot of big goals. If it's a game more like today where it's a close defensive matchup, the crowd doesn't get super into it. I definitely agree with that we could improve on that as a fan base. I wish that we would come up with some more good chants. Like the Pajot chant back in the day, that was awesome. Everyone loved that. We had the Alfie chants back in the day, and they reappeared in Sweden, which I loved. But it doesn't really feel too relevant during most games at this point. But he is back with the organization, so it would be more relevant than it would be over the last 10 years or so. Saying last time you were at the game, you couldn't even get a Go Sens Go chant going. It feels like that a lot, and it's even worse when we have like opposing teams fans in the building too. So that's frustrating as well. I don't think it's like too much. I guess with the lack of positivity overall in the fan base, it's a little bit to be expected at the moment. But you are right that even when we've had good seasons in the past, that it's not a super loud crowd. So I do agree with your point overall that we could show a little bit more positivity at the games and hopefully get some louder crowds in the future. Hopefully the team can give us more to cheer about in the future too, which today was a good step. A good step in the right direction for that. So a couple more chat comments. Deltago saying, MacEwen needs to be in the lineup against players like Matt Tkachuk. He shouldn't have been playing today, though. That's understandable. I feel like what happened when he was in the lineup against Tkachuk earlier this week wasn't exactly like necessary. Like I guess you want him as a deterrent, but Sanderson fought Matt Tkachuk anyway, so it's not like MacEwen was really being the guy to distract the rest of the team or like prevent the rest of the team from getting involved in shenanigans. Everyone just got like distracted by them anyway. I don't really know if he was successful in his role like that. And even earlier in the season, like when we played the Leafs, I thought that we were going to see a MacEwen and Reeves fight, but we didn't. that's something that it was like, okay, I thought that's what we got this guy for. Although of course I'm sure MacEwen only played like 3 minutes in that game too, because it seems to be a trend with him. I don't even remember like how many times he's fought this season. I'm gonna check the game logs really quickly. Like, let's see, what is his PIMS? He had the 15 minutes against Florida, which I don't think was even a fight. I think that was 5 minute major and a 10 minute. He fought against Minnesota and he fought against Tampa Bay. Yeah, oh yeah, I guess he fought Austin Watson in that game, I think. Uh, God, his season high of ice time is 6 minutes 45 seconds in the home opener, and he has had multiple games below 5 minutes. Like, holy crap! That's the thing. If you're gonna have a guy in your lineup playing that few minutes, he's got to be like fighting every night, or at least throwing some big hits. It's just like absolutely no impact from this guy. So I get your point that you would want to have this type of player in the lineup against certain teams who have like tougher players or players who are more shit disturbers. But I feel like the way that it played out against Florida, it was not really he wasn't too effective or anything. Delta Go also saying Sanderson fought Tkachuk because he called for Sanderson after turtling against MacEwen. Yeah, so I guess I don't fully remember the sequence of events here. Maybe the Sanderson fight was after MacEwen got kicked out, because I remember I turned the game off early, and I think he did get kicked out when I still had it on, but I was like not even paying attention to it at that point. I didn't even see the replay of what he did. So you might be right that MacEwen was already involved before that, and then Sanderson fought after. That makes sense. So like, yeah, maybe you can argue that he's valuable for those type of situations, but I think everyone would agree that you want a better player than that, who can play more than 3.5 minutes a night, to be able to be that physical deterrent. Because obviously you don't want Brady Tkachuk doing the fighting all the time, and you don't want Jake Sanderson to have to get in a fight. Like, that sucks. But MacEwen, I'm just not impressed overall to wrap that up. I guess last thing from the chat, Full Sweat Tryhard also saying we missed Chabot bad. You know what? I don't think I've mentioned Chabot. I barely mentioned Chabot all stream today, but he was great tonight. I'm very glad to have him back. Obviously, he had the assist yesterday, and there wasn't a lot of offense today, so he didn't get any points. But I found that he had a positive impact on the game in terms of offense and defense. Like, very good from Chabot. We really miss his puck moving. I was talking earlier about some of the forwards failing to get the puck out of the zone, but Chabot really helps with that in terms of making like clean breakout passes or even being able to skate it out himself. Because a lot of the time it feels like it's just that we have to rely on Jake Sanderson to get the puck out of our zone. So at least having Chabot as well, who is very good at that, is a huge boost. And I think in the third period we even saw Chabot and Sanderson playing together, which I liked. That was a little bit of a different thing to see, but Chabot was playing great. So glad that he was out there in the third period to defend the lead. And hey, in terms of the ice time too, the one benefit of playing the 7D is Chabot was 22.5 minutes today. We don't have to play Chabot 30 minutes anymore, which is freaking awesome. Ease him back into the lineup. I didn't check how many he played against Columbus. Maybe he probably played more in that game, I would guess, because of the back-to-back situation today. They probably tried to limit him a little bit more, and he did leave for the locker room briefly, but that wasn't too long of a gap. I think he came back, might not have even missed a shift in terms of the regular rotations, but I think limiting Chabot's ice time is a very good idea. The coaching staff should focus on that as much as they can, especially with Chychrun in the lineup consistently now too. God willing that he stays healthy. I think everyone is going to be very happy with Thomas Chabot playing 22 to 24 minutes a night instead of him being constantly overworked, which we even still saw last season, even though we also had Sanderson. It was constantly people complaining that, like, why is Chabot playing so much more than Sanderson when they're like equally as good, and you're overworking Chabot. I think it was it's a good opportunity. I think a lot of fans are going to kind of come around on Thomas Chabot in terms of his overall play, just because he's not going to be overworked as much. And I think we're going to see generally a lot more positive contributions from him this season. I'm optimistic about Chabot for the rest of the year, as much as I can be with this team in terms of the optimism, because obviously everything's not great. I have mostly focused on the positives here today. I think it must be refreshing. I mean, it's refreshing for me to actually be able to do a stream without talking about, oh my God, we need to fire the coach, which I still think that is going to be a discussion. I think that will remain as the main discussion, especially with a tough week coming up, with tough opponents. Those next couple of games could easily go very poorly, and then we'll be back on the fire DJ topic. But at least for tonight, they did pretty well, so I can't criticize too much. All I can do is take what they give me here today. If DJ can keep the team playing like this 5v5, obviously you got to work on the special teams. Penalty kill was much better today than it has been for most of the season, so that's another positive. Power play, not great. But if they can play much closer to this level, 5-on-5, and improve the power play, get it back to where it was last year, there still is some potential in DJ Smith coaching this team. I don't think it's enough to get this team to the playoffs, but hopefully we can be having more positive discussions and more positive results like we did here tonight. And, with that, I think that's where I'm going to leave it. I think I'm pretty happy for once ending the stream. Usually I'm just like, I'm pissed, I'm ranting like crazy, I'm running out of breath, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get out of here, I gotta go relax. But the Sens actually did not give me any reasons to be angry today, so I am pretty happy here. Signing off. Maude for SDPN Sports. Subscribe to SDPN. We are on the drive to 100k subscribers. We are getting so close now, so if you're not subscribed, please do, and leave a like on the stream if you enjoyed. Share it around as well if you enjoyed. We will be back Tuesday. I'm going to that game, so Charlie will be covering it against the Rangers. Here's hoping that we can have a decently positive stream once again. Thank you everyone for watching or listening. Have a good night.